back, Marianas. It is 8:07 here on Friday morning, and we are just surfing our way through the day. It's a great one. And my goodness, it's not every day you get two of the most important people in the entire Commonwealth that could be in the studio right here. And also Fred Sato. It's really good. It's really good. Fred is the best. But ladies and gentlemen, I want to say welcome to our DPS Commissioner, Anthony Macaranas, and the Public Information Officer for the Department of Public Safety, Fred Sato. Thank you both so much for joining us today. Thank you for being in the studio.
Thank you, Brad.
Yeah,
Thank you for inviting us over.
And, you know, normally I don't get my tickets delivered in person. I have to go and earn them myself on the road. But no, it's great to have you in here. It's been a while since we had you guys.
Yes. Thank you, Brad, again. It's great. And, probably some of the questions that the people out there are lingering in their mind as to what's been going on with DPS, probably we can shed some light over over the thoughts.
You want to go? Let's go get that guy.
Yeah, let's get those motor carry guys out there. But anyway, it's a great morning. It's a beautiful morning, and we're progressing forward. But like I said again, Brad, thank you again for inviting us. So that way you can ask questions, and I could give answers that probably would ease the people's mind right now with what's been going on with our community.
Well, you know, one of the things you guys released some stuff just a couple days ago. And it's good info, you know, about some of those statistics, but it's not like and by good, I don't mean like, ooh, those are great numbers. I mean, at least it shows that you guys are tracking it. But, you know, since this typhoon, you know, there's a lot going on. You know, people are experiencing a lot of stuff. I mean, can you tell us a little bit about the experience, like what you guys have been going through?
Well, you know, since the typhoon, with the disaster and all the damages done, the island became a crime of opportunity for a lot of the thieves, the responsibles that want to go out and just break into business establishments or homes when people are going through recovery. It's that crime of opportunity for them. And it's unfortunate that some folks out in the community choose to do that kind of behavior where they go out and commit crimes at a point when people are most vulnerable. You know, they're incurred a lot of damages and a lot of hardships that after the storm. So we've been busy responding to a lot of the calls, especially after the storm, because that's when everyone can go and assess their damages. And you know, we got the reports of the burglaries, which are alarming numbers. Mm-hmm. And, you know, we understand that the community, seeing those numbers, I myself would be, you know, shocked to see within 2-month period that amount of theft related incidents, burglaries, copper wire and stuff. So a lot has been going on. The officers were stretched out. We got requests from federal agencies to provide detailed security. We got schools requesting details for officers to be there during distribution sites. So the officers are stretched out, and you kind of bring that level of presence with officers patrolling the villages because we're being requested to do other stuff. So criminals take advantage of that. They see that and say, "Ooh, you know, I don't really see much police officers patrolling our villages and stuff." Mm-hmm. And it's not stuff that we go and advertise and say we're going to be too busy doing patrol work, so now you can go out and. You know. It's just, you know, like I said, it's crime of opportunity. They see what's going on. They know it's a disaster that we've went through, and they're going to find their ways. What made it even harder was the long period of power outage. So that too in itself, in the evenings when it's pitch dark, Navy Hill was pretty much the only area that got power within 10 days. Everyone else was running on generators or just no power at all. So those are the opportunities they take. Like, especially with the business, they lose their surveillance systems go down. There's nothing to keep track of what's going on around their residents because there's no power. So those are the factors that we look at. And Commissioner has informed the Criminal Investigation Bureau and stuff that we really need to hunker down and look into these cases and start bringing in those that are responsible.
Yeah, you know, I was just talking with one of my friends who's out there in DC right now, totally unrelated to this, about but they've got they've deputized folks from the National Guard to help with the Capitol Police with some of the things that are going on down there. Is that something that can happen here, or is that even in the realm of possibility? And would you even want to do something like that?
You know, Brad, that is something the head of state has to communicate with the other head of state that has the National Guard. I mean, we welcome any kind, all kinds of hands to help stabilize our community, especially when crimes are at the highest. But again, you know, there's other reasons that the military were brought in, and that is to help to bring back the community to normalcy by removing debris, helping them with the hardship of just clearing debris that flew over to their residents or to the business establishment. But going back to Fred Sato, yes. There's a whole lot of these people are just inconsiderate. We're talking about the thieves. The crime of opportunity, what the PIO said. But again, it goes back to the owner of the property. If it's all clear, start heading back to your property and start securing all your goods, because the earlier the better. But if you waited because you're thinking about where to put all these stuffs, and where you're gonna secure it, I understand that. But the mere fact is, whatever is the most valuable that you have, go home, go over to your place and pick it up and secure it. You can secure them in your car. You can take them over to the shelter where you're at and just put them in a corner, ensure that nobody gets near it, or just basically be responsible, because I understand that the people are very reliant on public safety to assure that thieves are not roaming around the community freely, and it's sad and sad because these people that take advantage of this crime, they either don't work or they're supporting some kind of habit, and it's the wrong thing. The message to the thieves is said, you have to understand that one day you're going to be a victim too. And then you're gonna feel how it feels that the people that you commit those crimes to, those people, you're gonna feel the same thing. So just find a solution to move with your life by not stealing. Go and find a job, go to school, or anything that would distract you from those crimes. But again, it's very hard because these people, once they set their minds in this kind of attitude, they will continue, because that's the easiest way to make their living. But again, CIB, my detectives are actively looking to the cases that have been reported, and they're moving forward with the cases.
How about that? I know those guys got to be crazy overworked. There's all kinds of stuff. Is there a cap for like full-time employees for DPS? I mean, I'm sure there's a financial constraint, but like if you wanted to add like 100 more officers in the next year, are you even able to consider doing something like that?
Well, the only direction, Brad, I'm going to go to is getting federal funding to a program that hires police officers to augment the current manpower, which is the COP grant. The COPS grant enable us to hire, while the using federal money to pay for these officers to do the work of a police officer. So That's in the works. We've been using since I came in. We've been availing to those kind of grants, the cops grant, and we've hired several people into the department with those grants. But we're guaranteed 3 years that the grant would hold those people. After 3 years, then the grant is going to ask us that you have to take over because you've already met the threshold to sustain those people while employed at the Department of Public Safety.
So we had the mayor in here, I don't know, last week, and we were talking about the different like policing things, and I hadn't thought about this, but for the longest I haven't thought about it. But the back where I'm from, you got that like your villages are set up differently, and the towns are set up differently. We don't really have towns, right?
Right.
But we do have villages. And the villages, they actually tax based on their own tax and all that, which would be awful right now. I don't want to pay more taxes. But the idea of like having like a village police department, like the village of Depew has their own police. The village of Lancaster has their own police. The town of Lancaster has its own police that's separate from the village of Lancaster. And then you've got the county cops, you got the state cops and all that other stuff. Is that something... Do like, are we set up where we could actually make something like that happen here? And would that make you guys like the state troopers at that point? Like
it's, that idea is good, but look at the geographic of our island. We're too close. So if we're gonna have a police department for San Jose, it's only it's a small place in San Jose. And once you enter the other, like Susupi, that's another jurisdiction if there's another police department there. So that's why they created the Department of Public Safety to oversee the whole island.
And one uniform standard and all that stuff, right?
Everything's just one because we're just a small community. Probably the whole island is like one city in a state side.
One town, right? I mean, like it's not a whole lot, but it was more about the idea of if DPS is overtaxed, overstretched and all that other stuff, maybe that becomes a thing. Like we don't have a village mayor, we have the island mayor, right? So we don't really have elected officials other than the House of Representatives. But like if that were to change, if all of a sudden the village of CK were to get together and have their own, like the CKPD or something, right? Well, first of all, that'd be a rough and tumble PD. They'd be busy, right? That'd probably take a lot off of what you guys have. But like that lets you do all this, like the overhead kind of stuff. You'd still have full jurisdiction doing everything else too. But now the folks in CK would be paying taxes to fund a whole police force that's based out of CK. It's really complicated.
It is complicated, especially for a small island. And there's not much workforce that would hire a lot of people to infuse some of those taxes that they're going to be paying for it. That's why I think logically right now with the Department of Public Safety as a whole governing the whole community, that's why it's very important that our leaders have to really look into this because like I'll be frank with you, Brad. I lost 10 police officers before and after the typhoon. They went for different opportunities, So that's less people now that I lost in the department. So now I'm really stretching really thin our police department, our police officers out in the street. As much as we try to accommodate every people, we're doing everything what we can. Within our means to entertain our people's concerns and complaints out there.
So I'm trying to think of different ways to help achieve your goal. About like that, the whole overall security stuff, and then the funding is a big thing. The federal funding is a big help, for what you're doing. But maybe that's like instead of like a village thing, maybe it is a municipality thing. Maybe it is a Saipan police department or like something like the Saipan precinct or the Tinian precinct or whatever, so that the funds that would be used for them would be there Like it's not something that gets reprogrammed. It's not something out of the general fund and all that stuff. So like if there was a special Saipan police component, I don't know how this works. I have not figured all that stuff out. But you know what it is like you guys don't get enough funds to do the job that you got to do, and then you got to answer to everybody. It's got to be. It seems pretty thankless and also kind of a very difficult task to accomplish.
Right. Yeah. But you know, Brad, like in the police department now, there's a lot of expenses to incur. That's why funding is, like you mentioned, it's a real issue. Funding to pay anything from our utilities, fuel for the vehicles, maintenance of the vehicles. Uniforms and equipment for the police officers, and everything that I need to assure that the folks in the Department of Safety are well taken care of, in means of the necessity to do the job. It comes up to a whole lot of money, and again, it's really a burden to us, especially to keep up with the days prices been going on, especially with utilities and the fuel. Those are the top numbers that's really in our department that really we spend a lot. Just those two. The other thing is the salary of the police officers. Is not as generous as in the state side.
Not even close.
Nope.
You guys are not paid like valued law enforcement officers.
And that's true, and but I still give thanks to the folks that's in the department, the police officers, to continue working despite the salary issue. They still come and work because they, number one, they took that oath to serve and protect, and number two, the job of a police officer, it's not for everybody. It takes that one special person to come in and take the challenge. So that's why sometimes I get frustrated when people they mock the police department, they belittle the department, not knowing that those people that are talking against the department, not even you ever try to come in and wear the shoes of these officers that are going through right now. So that's why the people have to understand that our job is not that easy. It's not that attractive, but again, it's a job that we took seriously to go out there and help every community out there.
Well, it's not easy, but I think there's a lot of frustration too, to be fair. Like I know people who have had those sakis, around their neighborhood, confronted them, and said, "Hey, what are you doing?" "Hey, it wasn't me," but all that stuff, because of, well, you're not getting everybody at their best. People without power, people without, everyone's got water now.
Yeah.
But like in the immediacy after the storm, like the first month and a half, and then people get upset. People are a little, right. But then you've got some other folks who, like, again, Mayor was in last week, told this story about he heard some commotion and saw someone walk around the village with a gun in his hand, looking for the guy who took his stuff. Funny story is that, let's just, I don't know if it was last week or the week before when the mayor told me that. Maybe it was like a week and a half ago. A guy who I haven't seen in a while, I saw him at Ace Hardware. He's like, "Hey, I heard you had the mayor on." Yeah, he said they said you told this story. I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "That was me." I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm the one with the gun. I was out there." He's like, "Man, these guys." I'm like, "Holy cow!" Like this is this is a real story. This is a guy who I've known for well over 20 years. He's like, "Man, I just couldn't, like this. I heard this guy, and it came back. I never caught him or anything, but I went out looking for this motherfather and try to find him." I'm like, "Oh my gosh!" And this is a pretty, at least in my experience before, this was a pretty stable guy.
Yeah.
And if guys like that are starting to get into that kind of that zone, I mean, maybe it's pretty hot down there in CK.
I think that incident occurred in Dan.
Was it Dan?
Yeah, Dan. And I shared the individual's frustration because he really worked hard to have those things. Like what I'm saying, these thieves, they don't consider people their hard work. They value their stuff. That's why they got those things. That's why even like the thieves. One day you're gonna be a victim. They stole the stuff from your house, and you're gonna feel the same how the people that you victimize.
Mhm.
So
Well, those guys who are stealing probably aren't worried about that. They're worried about getting their next fix, to support their habit
Right.
and all that other stuff. And like Fred, like what you're saying, a target of opportunity, right? That's the only thing. I heard that quote. The only thing that separates an honest man from a thief is opportunity. And there's a whole lot of it from all this stuff. What do you think? I think you guys, the numbers are available for everybody all the time to help fight these crimes. Do you think anybody is not calling in because they're worried about anything?
It could be several factors, whether it's a family member. Most folks don't want to be involved, and which is the reason why we always recommend they call the Crime Stoppers hotline, because you can call and report it anonymously. And at the same time, if there's an arrest to the incident, you get reward, paid a reward of up to 1,000. But, to see a crime being committed, or to know that a crime was committed, and you're able to provide that information to law enforcement and also assist the victims with either recovering their stolen belongings, or any type of crime that could be result in an arrest, that you got to report it, because one day it might happen to you as an individual, where you end up becoming a victim of a crime, and that the person that you witnessed had their belongings stolen, and you refuse to provide that information of, you saw a vehicle, you got the license plate, but you don't want to get involved, so you don't want to share that information. Ends up biting you back in the butt. So I always encourage people that if you see something, say something, and report it. Call Crime Stoppers. Crime Stoppers, we don't have caller ID. We don't ask for names. We just need the
information,
good information. And I'm not saying, or I'm saying it's good information, because sometimes we get tips where, this person is selling drugs. Okay, provide me more that I could give to the investigator, because if you're selling drugs, what type of drug or how's it transact? And I always tell tipsters, if you have a cell phone, video record or take photos, and also add it to the hotline tip message.
That works because I've seen some convictions recently where the video footage of people perpetrating some terrible acts has been used against them in court.
And it helps. It really helps with the investigation part. And that's just some of the challenges we face. Is some people just don't want to be involved in any incident. They don't want to report it. Then we get those that just want to share it on social media, which is something that, we ask the community to really be mindful of what you share or what you post. I know it's reaction where, I'm going to share this on my social media post. But at the same time, it could also have long-term effects on victims of crime, because now that video is being circulated to everyone, and it's stuck there on the internet. So we just ask that if you're video, or if you're witnessing something, you're taking videos or photos, share it with law enforcement first before you plaster it on, because it could cause more damage than any good, when not to say all of them are, but the victims too end up suffering from trauma with having to constantly be reminded of this.
I have been seeing a lot of videos about a lot of things recently, and one of them is the mom and pop stores popping up videos of people going into their shop and pocketing stuff and
Pocketing
leaving.
stuff.
Do they reach out to you guys first before they at all? Do you get those kind of calls from the grocery stores and all that?
I'm pretty sure they do report it. Do I get the calls directly? No, I'm not. But usually when incidents like that occur, they'll call 911 and have officers dispatch. The question is, a can of corned beef to go to the court process and have a case forwarded to the AG it's a lot, you know, and I mean, it is a crime, shoplifting and stuff. But yeah, you get that argument of, well, I don't know why you gotta call the police. You know, they're probably hungry, but it's a crime. It's still a crime.
Still
that's
stealing.
It's still stealing.
If everyone could just walk in and take a can of corned beef, I would do it. You know, like, I like some
So
corned
those
beef.
those are the things that, you know.
No, that's good. So you got that, but some of those places have a wall of fame anyway. When you go in, they're like, "Hey, we
you
don't
got all
like this
their
guy.
photos.
Don't go in there." By the way, I like you. I think you've been a great cop the whole time you've been here, and then becoming the commissioner and everything. It's really been cool to see you make your way through the ranks, come back to Saipan, and take the reins again and everything. It's cool. You had this crazy year this year with all this other stuff.
Yeah, it is.
How do you deal with this? The whole thing with an acting governor comes in, cut you free. The governor comes back, is like, no, I rescind that. You're back. How do you go through dealing with all that stuff on a day to day?
You know, Brad, I just, you know, like I said earlier, I just come and do my job and do what I need to do. And I report to one man and one man only. And that's the governor. You know, if he tells me to go ahead and respect the process that, you know, you let go, all right. But when he tells me, come back to work, report back to your office at this time, I'm just going to follow his orders. You know, at the end of the day, he's the man of the island. So I'm not going to question his orders or his integrity.
Well, that's all you can do. It's just got to be an interesting situation going to work and knowing that was a thing. Nobody else gets that. You just got it. That's your payment for getting not paid to do your job.
Well, that's again, you know, it's the love of the job. That's the reason why I came back. You know, it's not. I'm not interested in anything to gain from the department, but to give the department. You know, now that up here being in this level, you know, it takes a whole lot of your time, your efforts. You know. To move this department the right way, you know. And I will continue to do it as long as they need me here. And now, if they don't need me, hey, I'm done. You know, I'll move on with go back to my retirement.
Hey, we need you. Let me ask you this: we were talking about this yesterday on the show, and I was talking about all the expenses. You see all this stuff that came out about like austerity and all this other stuff, which is tough. I can't imagine your guys can get cut because there's too much going on. Yeah. But speaking of your guys, and you're the closest thing to a security expert that I think we could ever have in our studio. Am I crazy thinking that our governor and lieutenant governor probably don't need a personal security detail everywhere they go?
Well, I'll be frank with you. The security to the head of state, it's a must, you know. But, you know, again, be mindful that also we got other responsibilities. And that's why we only commit X numbers of security detail for them. While I commit a lot of the resources, I combine them and use them out in the street to continue to provide safety and security to our community.
But... And I know security is the most important thing. Safety is the most important thing and all that stuff. But in a community like ours, it just seems like there's not that kind of a threat. I know that it's like naive kind of talk.
Yeah.
Right. But I feel like there isn't like a separate branch of Al Qaeda that's just waiting for the opportunity when DPS lets the governor go into the store by himself.
Yeah. Well, you know, with all this tension going on, you know, I have to be concerned about the safety and security of the head of state. That is why that we continue giving them the security to assure that the head of state continues to perform his responsibility to the community. So the security is just a small part of his daily responsibility. My responsibility is to make sure that the folks that are guarding him are constantly there. Regardless how you look at it, I still have to provide the security.
Okay. It's so I'm just going down a rabbit hole, just trying to
Sure.
figure this stuff out, and hearing it from the expert is the best way to go.
Mhm.
So you got that with the gov, and they got to go with them everywhere they go and
Yes.
everything.
Yes.
Now, how far down does that go? I think the lieutenant governor gets security too, right?
Yes.
How about like folks like Senate President or House?
Well, if they
Speaker.
request, if they ask for the services, of course, again, we gotta meet and look at the threat level, because every position in the government, especially the head of states and below, we look at threat level, So again, if a lawmaker says, hey, I feel unsafe because of what's been going on, I feel unsafe, then, we'll look at it, and if we need to provide, we'll provide. But again, we just have to work it out again. It's not like the governor it's a must have to provide the security, I'm not saying they're not important. I'm just saying that it's been a long practice. It's been a tradition that we provide the security for the head of state.
Totally understand that, and I get it. From my perspective of where I'm at, without having all the access to all the great stuff that you have and knowing all that stuff that goes on, it just seems like we live in a pretty chill place. That maybe it's not the most important thing, but or it's not like a threat level thing. But but you're the expert. I would rely on what you have to think about that and just call it a day instead of a banging that drum anymore. But yeah, that makes sense. Anyway, what else? What do you think is we've only got we got a crazy year for election coming up, and then so we got all the way to the end of the year. What do you think are the things that you guys can really focus on between now and the end of the year? What are going to be the most important things that what you guys have?
Well, we will continue to provide safety and security to the community. That's the utmost. We will continue to cover the island. Continue to do crime suppression, crime prevention, and of course to continue following up cases that need to go to adjudication. But again, we will continue to do our work diligently, even before or after the election. We'll continue on. And should a new administration comes in, a new commissioner comes in, then I'll just turn over everything, and But the work of the Department of Public Safety will continue to provide that safety and security out to the community.
All right. Now, we put out a survey, and it looks like 4 out of 5 people are saying that Fred Sato should get a raise. The fifth one was no, I'm just kidding. That one doesn't count. We only care about Fred Sato. Great to have you in studio, man. I love it. You're a great guy. Both of you are just really good guys. And it's great to know that at least we got a real solid top of the line over there at DPS. Is there any last messages you want to send out to the community?
Well, I just want to share that starting next week, Monday, our Marine Patrol will be conducting vessel inspections, patrolling our shorelines. We are preparing to kick off the Operation Dry Water campaign, which starts July 3rd to the 5th. It's a national campaign that working coincide with the Coast Guard, and we do a lot of stop and board vessel inspections, checking if operators are under the influence or boating while under the influence. The main thing for the campaign is to just make sure that everyone is safe out there in the water, boaters as well. and that no one is under the influence while they're operating a vessel. So that will be kicking off Monday. We will start seeing a lot of guys from the Marine Patrol out there doing some enforcement stuff with alongside with the Coast Guard.
We just have floating checkpoints.
Floating checkpoints, and there is a standardized testing for the boat operators. So, I can say one of them is not the walk and
I was gonna say lay it down in it, float in the water. Now touch your nose. Let's see what happens.
Do the nystagmus, the gaze nystagmus, the sitting, the palm to palm.
What's palm to palm?
You do and it tests out your coordination. So you got one palm up, one palm down, alternate. So.
Oh.
Yeah.
I was thinking of having our boating safety education coordinator probably come in sometime next week on your show and talk more about it. Also provide more information as far as the whole goal of Operation Dry Water.
We could take this bad boy out there and go do some go do some live stuff out there on the water and find out what's going on. Really great stuff. How about you, Commish?
Well, I would like to continue to tell let the folks out in the community, continue to be vigilant with your within your community. Help each other, help your neighbor. Report a crime, even if it's suspicious, even if you feel that it's a suspicious, report it in, because that's suspicious. We can try and eliminate some of those people that should not be around the community, and probably we can see what are the activities they're attempting to do. And the most thing, people, if you report a crime, please be involved. Once you pick up the phone and you call 911, you're involved already. You're reporting a crime. So all we ask you is just cooperate with our officers, or cooperate with our dispatchers that are asking these questions, because these questions are the things that they need to know before they send it out to the officer. We don't want to misinform the officer of something you left out, and then when the officer interacts with this person, something that should be going right, it's gone wrong. Most of the folks that are reporting of the so-called reckless driving, a lot of these folks are calling it reckless driving, even though a unsafe lane change, they call it reckless driving, And then when the officer stops the vehicle, this person at call doesn't want to get over there, doesn't want to get involved. It's good to get involved so that we would understand what are the crimes you're reporting, because you might be saying reckless driving, but in us we might say, oh, it's just a minor fraction of unsafe lane change or fail to yield. And the folks here, and the funny thing is that a lot of these people they just come up with words, and when we look at the crime, it doesn't even match to what they're saying. And the other thing too that's kind of infuriates to me is that the people expect us to go out there and arrest people. Well, when we arrest, we want to make sure that we do it the right way. We don't just go out to arrest anybody that because you said, well, we should be arresting. We need time, information, all the things we need to build a case before we can make an arrest. It's just not going out there and arrest these people. This drug, and then when people say, yeah, this drug is a crackhead, I don't know what a crackhead looks like.
He's sitting right next to you.
Yeah, it could be, but again, I don't know. When some people are saying, this guy is mental. Well, honestly, even I myself, I don't know how a mental challenged person looks like. When the people say, oh, that guy is, has a mental, well, okay. Who said that this person? Probably he's just having a bad day and just taking out his frustration, But a lot of these folks out there, they brand the people because that's how they looked at, But again, the main thing is, be alert, be vigilant, and stay safe out there. Just work with your neighbor, help each other, and report crimes that should be reported.
Is that would you think that that's a good thing for neighborhood building? Meeting your neighbors, knocking on doors, say, hey, my name is so-and-so. Just want to say, hey, I'm your next door neighbor. How's it going?
Well, that's good. You know, it's good to know your neighbors. You know, because one day, you know, they'll ask you, "Hey, who's your neighbor?"
You know, stateside, that's, you know, easy to do where you go to your neighbor. And here in the cinema, you got to be cautious of dogs that are not leashed.
Oh yeah.
So, you know, that makes a challenge there where do you want a dog bite or do you want to, you know,
So bring some dog treats or
Yeah,
some bacon in your pocket so you can kind of toss it to these guys, and you're going, hey, you get to meet your neighbor's dogs too.
Yeah,
It's a good deal. Anyway, it was a good deal having both of you guys in here. This is really great. Hopefully, I love the whole thing about dry water. I'm like, what is that, air? But no, now we know. So let's have those guys come in, talk more about like what's going on, and any of the programs you guys have going on. You're what the thin blue line that keeps us separated from the bad guys.
Right.
And so thanks for all that you do in our community, and
Thank you too.
look forward to seeing you guys again.
And thank you, Brad, for bringing out messages to our community. I mean, what's been happening around. We appreciate your effort and time to send those messages, and it's it really has a big impact to our community. Once we get this information, stay alert, be vigilant, stay safe. That's one of the greatest messages we can give to the people. But thank you again, Brad.
Wake up to the sunshine in the morning.